Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Synovial Marketing Masterclass. We are so excited to be here today with our guest, Lindsay Pinchuk. She is a marketer and a brand expert with 25 years plus experience. She is a mom and has all the good information on marketing and branding. So we are going to dive on in with her today. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for being here and speaking with us.
Thanks so much, Hannah, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm so excited because all of our listeners and viewers are a lot of small businesses, and your story is one that I'm super excited for them to hear. So, can you tell us a little bit of that backstory for those that don't know?
Yeah, of course. So I worked in advertising and marketing at the Hearst Corporation for almost a decade. I built and sold integrated marketing programs for Fortune 500 companies, really like Fortune 100 companies like Target, General Mills, Quaker, like really big brands. And I got pregnant and I lived in downtown Chicago at the time, and none of my family lives here, and none of my friends were pregnant at the time. Now, sidebar that we all have seventh graders. I was just first. I mean, it just kind of happened like that. But in any event, I was looking for community for myself. And in that, I set up a prenatal yoga class, and I sent out an email and I said, I'm going to be doing this class for people who are expecting. And word of mouth traveled very fast. You have to remember this was 2010. So there was no social media really to back up my promotion at the time. And we filled 2 rooms with pregnant women. And from there, we went on to have additional events and continue to build on those events. And I ended up with my background in advertising and marketing. I had reached out to many brands. They were giving us product. We were having giveaways and gift bags, and I started building partnerships with a lot of these brands. From there, a lot of those partnerships turned into paid partnerships because the brands really wanted more than just a giveaway or a gift bag. They really wanted to integrate into my community. I ended up building this community to be one of the largest communities for parents and parents to be in the country. It was called Bump Club and Beyond. We worked with brands such as Target, Nordstrom, The Honest Company, Unilever, every baby brand under the sun. And we were providing the best products, resources, information, and connection for parents and parents to be. And we were hosting events in over 25 cities. So obviously that didn't happen overnight, but about 9 years in, I was approached by multiple entities to buy my company. And
Mm.
I ended up selling my company to the company who wanted me, who wanted my team, and who wanted my brand. And so in 2019, I closed on the sale of that business. I went and worked in corporate America again for 2 years, and truthfully, it just it I realized that it wasn't mine anymore, and I was the face of this company still, and I wasn't making the decisions. And that was really kind of the indicator that it was time for me to leave. I wasn't happy. I was working a lot still, and the sale of the business did not solve my issues. Like, I mean, I was sick of bootstrapping. I was sick of working around the clock. And yes, I was making a really nice paycheck when I sold, and I got money for it, obviously, but the business itself was not it did not pan out the way I wanted it to pan out. And so I left after 2 years, and I left with one goal. The goal was really to help other female founders and business owners to find success, and whatever that might be. When I took a good hard look back at what I did, there was a process that I used for building this business. At the time, I didn't know, but when I looked back on it, it was very evident that I built this business based largely on the foundation of organic marketing. I didn't
Mm.
spend a dollar. I didn't have a million followers. I built this community from scratch, and I did it by having all of my assets and platforms work together. So it was social media, my website, emails, events, partnerships, and publicity, which today is my coined method. I coined it SWEEP. That stands for SWEEP. And when all of these entities are working together, you find success, and you find greater success for your brand. And so when I left, that's what I started implementing for my clients. I sent out an email. I said, I'm taking clients. People were like, in what? I said, I can do anything in marketing. this is what I did. And within a couple weeks, I had clients, and I've had a steady stream of nonstop clients since. I've been very lucky. And so I've gone into companies, both big and small, and I've worked with them on their organic marketing strategies and really building out their brand. From there, I started to coach as well. There are many small business owners out there who, who cannot afford me as a consultant and as someone who's going to do it for them. But I go in and I work with them, and I make a really big impact and difference on their bottom line through the principles that I teach them. I also have started teaching classes, and coming soon, I'm going to be having a large library of digital resources that are available for people to take and use and follow step by step to build out their own brands. So I also have a podcast, which I want to mention. I have a podcast called Dear Found Her, and that is really proven to be a big source of marketing for me and for my current company. I've interviewed some of the biggest founders in the world, Bobby Brown, Megan Tomte from Evereve. I have Carissa Bodner from Thrive Cosmetics coming up this week. Some very big founders sharing their stories so that others can learn from it. So that's kind of my story long. It's a long story. Sorry.
Well, no, that's great. It's a great backstory. I want to kind of jump into it a little bit because I think that we at Synovial Marketing, we talk all the time about like a holistic marketing approach. And I love that you kind of speak on that as well with it's not just one thing. And I love that you talk about organic marketing, that it doesn't, a lot of people, when they think about marketing and getting eyes on their business, they're more thinking about paid advertisement or, really trying to push ads or, paying big money to get their name out there. But what you really did with your company and what you're continually talking about is organic marketing and doing it organically. So in that beginning, with Bump Club, when you were going out and networking, you know, how was that for you? I can only imagine, being a mom, being pregnant and going out and talking to these businesses and networking and things like that, growing this business. How was that for you? Did you just automatically start that, or how did that kind of
So
come
here's
about?
the thing is that when you are marketing your business, the most successful opportunities are actually right in front of you, and you don't have to look hard to find them. So for me with Bump Club, it was really quite simple. I wanted to reach expectant moms. So I said to myself, who else is reaching expectant moms? Well, I just said I had a prenatal yoga class. I went to it was actually a bar class. I went to the owner of the bar studio I was going to, and I said, I'm pregnant. No one knows. I haven't been public about it yet, but this is what I want to do. Would you host a prenatal class with me? And she was very intrigued because she wanted to bring in more expectant women into her classes. So together we created a partnership that ended up being a partnership that lasted the whole decade that I owned Bump Club. We hosted events with her, and then she was part of a larger franchise that they ended up all working with us across the country. So, we partnered with her. She shared our event with her network. I shared my event with my network, and it was really a win-win for everyone. So, you have to kind of think about who is this in front of you that is reaching your target consumer. Who can you work with to share communities and to share them synergistically and to not share them and not compete with each other. I will tell you, once you start working with people, what happens is other people take notice. So you better believe that her 3 biggest competitors reached out to me after they wanted to work with me as well. I also, my second event was a shopping event with a maternity store. Well, this store wanted to bring in customers. So I said to the owner, I called the owner. I didn't know her. I said, I have this concept. I'd like to talk to you. Would you meet me for coffee? I met her in the coffee bar outside her retail location. So it wasn't, annoying for her. And we had a 30-minute meeting. I said, look, I want to bring people into your store. Would you be open to hosting? Would you share? Yes. Okay. And then what ended up happening with that was I was able to reach out to a lot of the brands that were sold in the store. And I said, I'm hosting an event in this store where your product is sold. Would you be willing to provide product for a giveaway or for gift bags? And a lot of these brands were willing to pony up the product because they wanted to be in front of this target consumer. And so what ended up happening was from there, other brands started taking note and they were like, how can I get involved? And then once we had a couple of events, other brands were reaching out saying, how can I partner with you on a bigger scale? And
Mm.
so did it happen overnight? No. But when it's seamless and you just really think logically, if it's logical, there's no reason why anyone would say no. If it's not a stretch, there's no reason why anyone would say no to partnering with someone to get the word out about their business. Like the
100%.
risk for them is so low that if you have the confidence saying, this is my idea, I like to partner, this is how we both benefit.
Mm.
It's really a stretch for someone to say, no, I don't want to do that. The
Yeah.
other thing too is when you partner with any other entity, whether it's a business, a brand, an influencer, whatever it is, you're creating content. So you're not only sharing your community, but now, like it's different now than it was when I started Bump Club. There was no Instagram when I started Bump Club, but now you're creating content. So I'm going to give an example, a right now example. So
Yeah.
I hosted an event a couple weeks ago called Found Her Fridays. And it was just kind of me dipping my toe back into the events situation. I said I wasn't going to host events again after Bump Club. Well, here we are. I'm hosting events now regularly. And it's been really successful for me. I mean, so what I ended up doing was I partnered with a local restaurant who has an event space. It's woman owned. I said to her, "Hey, would you," and she knows me. I said, "Would you be open to me bringing in, this event and using your space? We're not going to do catering because I'm not putting money against this right now, but I'll send the link out to everyone before they come and tell them to order from the cafe before they come in. Would you do this?" And it was at 10 a.m. on a Friday. She's not using her event space. So what's the worst? 5 people come and she's not using her event space. Well, we had 65 people register and 45 people attend. And what ended up happening was I had this partnership with the venue. Everyone there was posting.
Mm.
And so it's very different. The reason I'm bringing this example up is because it's different than the original events at Bump Club because there was no
Yeah.
posting back in the day. So, but like now a partnership like that creates so much content, not just for the two entities involved, but for the people who attend. And so you're like, oh my God, you're getting so much ROI from this
Yeah. Eyes
one
on your
hour
brand.
of time, So it's to answer your question, yes, I did just get started. I figured out who I wanted to reach out to and I reached out and I made it so it worked for them and for me. If you make it so it works for everyone, it's very hard for people to say no.
Yeah. And I love that because I feel like a lot of, we talk about this looking for your verticals as a small business, trying to find somebody, a partnership. Not just, people think about content so much. They're like, I'm trying to get my name out there through content, through content, through content. And it's not just through content, it's actually going out in your community and networking and finding partnerships. And, like you said, if it's mutual for everybody, if you're a candle maker and you make candles and you go out to a store and you say, hey, I'd like to partner with you to do a candle making event, and everyone is, benefiting. That's how you really grow your business, not just through posting on social media or, it's really those connections and networking. And I think that is something I also want to touch on. You've grown multiple successful businesses and you have grown them nationwide and been, seen in the press and, talk to major outlets. How did your name get out there on that scale?
So that's also something that doesn't happen overnight. And I think that a lot of people have the misconception that it does. I will explain my situation and then I would like to explain kind of where I tell my clients to get started, if that's
Yeah,
okay. Okay.
exactly.
So when I started Bump Club, like I said, there was no social media. So there were no influencers. Like people weren't like, oh, I want to be Insta famous. Like that was not a thing.
Yeah.
Why I was so successful is because I literally showed up. I was pregnant and I showed up and I shared my shit. Okay. Like I was like,
Yep.
my ankles are swollen. My belly is itchy. Is anyone else feeling this? But I didn't share it on social media because there was no social media. I was sharing it on my blog, which was the version of social media at the time. I was sharing it live at events. I was sharing it in emails. Now, what happened is I was relating to my community and people were starting to see me as like this face for expectant women. And as I grew and as more and more people were connecting with me, I was building these like really strong connections. People wanted to be a part of what I was building.
Mm.
And about after year one, I would say it was after my daughter was born. So it must have been in like the spring of 2011. I was approached by a girl I knew from growing up in Detroit. And she said, I'm starting a PR firm with this other woman. We'd love to represent you. And I said, look, like, I don't really have that much of a budget. She said, like, we'll work with you on it. And what they did was they built up my expertise, and they pitched me to the press, saying, the local press, okay, the local press, saying like, we have this woman in our community, she is hosting these events for expectant moms, she's an expert on X, Y, and Z. And I started getting booked on TV segments. And then we applied for me to like win a couple of awards, and I ended up getting them. So I won like Crane's Best Entrepreneur in 2014. I won like a Chicago magazine, like this big community award for having like the best mom community. It was very public. And so it was like creating like a lot of buzz, right? So yes, I had help. They helped me. But what ended up happening is people started seeing me as this expert in the parenting space. And the bigger I got and the more I put out into the world, and then eventually with social media, more and more outlets started wanting my expertise, asking me for my expertise in the parenting space. And so it's a lot easier, right, to like pitch someone who has some experience in the press than no one. And I ended up having regular TV segments on many of the stations here in Chicago. And from there, what ended up happening is as Bump Club grew and became a national brand, and we were hosting events in other places, my PR representation would pitch me to other networks. When I would go to Nashville to do an event, they would pitch me to the networks there. And one of the networks there actually became a regular network of mine too. One of the networks in Austin became a regular network of mine. So much so that show in Austin, I am still a regular on via Zoom now, and I talk about entrepreneurship. So that was a relationship that I built with the producer, and they loved having me on. And so I don't talk about parenting now, but I talk about entrepreneurship. So it's really this slow crawl, right? Of like building up your portfolio and building the buzz and getting people to talk about you. And so what I would say to people who are just getting started in that arena is, don't get hung up on feeling like you have to be like on TV or in like the printed press, right? That will come with time, but you have to get people talking about your brand first. So how do you do that? Well, first and foremost, your customers. So find a way to get your customers talking about you. Testimonials, user-generated content, anything that they can share. And I want to reiterate the fact that press is when anyone shares about you. So if someone shares about you on their Instagram account, that's buzz, that's press. So if you could get some notable people in your community sharing about you, or people who you're friends with, that's a great place to start. Alumni magazines. If you went to college and you have an alumni magazine, see if they'll do a feature about you. Any kind of local publication, like, the Blotters and all these local things from your town, they want to support small business. Your Chamber of Commerce, that's another great place. You might have to join, but it's also great to join your Chamber of Commerce. And any kind of like local online venue that wants content would be happy to share your story. And so, as an example, Dear Found Her is my podcast, and on my Dear Found Her website and on my Dear Found Her Instagram, one of the things that we do, and actually you should do this, you should fill out this form. We have a form on the website where you can fill it out and share your story. And it's our way to share other female founders and businesses. Well, it's a win-win, right? It gives us content. We're sharing female founders and their success stories and their tips and their tricks, but you are being featured on a top 2% podcast website. And when we start doing compilation episodes, we will be reaching out to the people who have provided us with answers to give us their 15-second clips or their 1-minute clips or whatever it might be. So look for those opportunities. And once you start building buzz, it's a lot easier to turn around to a bigger podcast and say, hey, well, I was on these podcasts and I know how to guest, and here's what I can offer you. So it's easier to pitch a bigger podcast, right? Just like it's easier to then turn around and pitch local press like TV and magazines and newspapers. So, but you have to start somewhere. You can't, like, yes, there are people who are very lucky and who get that splash in Forbes or Fast Company or whatever it is. But most of the time, it's a slow crawl to get there.
100%.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I know it was like a long answer, but I think it's really important to dissect some of this because I think it's very easy. I think it's very easy for people to get lost in what's going on online in terms of like going down a rabbit hole and feeling bad about themselves and thinking that things happen overnight and things happen really quickly. None of it does. And
Yeah.
behind every successful picture or testimonial that you see online, there's likely years of experience, years of really like busting their
Hard
butt
work.
to get there and hard work, right? So I think it's really important to remember that and to dissect these scenarios so that people know how to get started and that it doesn't have to be like it doesn't have to be the top prize that's the first prize.
100%. Yeah, that's what we see a lot, and I feel like in this culture of today, it's very like fast. Like people think overnight they're gonna become a sensation, or their product is gonna have $1 million in sales, or it's just like people don't see the growth and the progress. They just see like the finished thing, and they're like, oh, I could do that. And it's like, no, that took years of hard work and going out and networking and connections and speaking and so I think that's really great to talk about the backstory of like what really happens, rather than just seeing the finished product of that. And I kind of want to transition with that. Now you're doing more of the coaching and helping small businesses with their strategy and with their social media and things like that. One thing I really like is that you are big on strategy and not so much, like the strategy behind the content, I guess. So in today now what you're doing with that, can you talk a little bit about who you help and how you kind of
Yeah.
help them with that consulting piece?
So who I help is I help two different people. I help more established brands who really need someone to come in and do their marketing for them. So I do that. And it's a variety of clients. Like I have some toy brands, I have a couple of startups, I've helped multiple personal brands, female founders who their company and their business brand is okay, but they need help as a founder to build up their personal brand. So that's kind of who I help from that. Coaching wise, it's really run the gamut. Like I've had everyone from photographers to yoga instructors to people who just want to start a podcast for their business and they don't know where to start, to organizers, coaches. I mean, like it's really run the gamut. But the reason that my process works for everybody is because it's a process. Okay. So I'm real, like to your point, I'm very big on putting in the work up front so that you have a process and you're not spending time building content and creating content, but you're spending time on your business. And the biggest compliment that people gave me at Bump Club and give me now is one of the biggest compliments is when they ask me, how many people are on your social media team? And I'm like, you're looking at her, and it was the same at Bump Club. I mean, at Bump Club, I did have a team of 10 people, toward the later end, but I did the social media. There was a point where I had someone who was helping me, but I was doing the social media. So the reason it worked then, the reason that it works now is because I have sat down and I've created a strategy, and then I've created a process for that strategy. And I take a lot of my content and I repurpose it. So you will notice if you look
I
at
love
anything that I do, I really and truly
that.
talk about the same 6 things over and over. I mean,
Yes.
and I take that content and I repurpose it and I reuse it. And what that's done for me, now I'm going to talk about for me now, and it was the same for Bum Club, but for me now, what that's done for me is I stand for something, right? So like people know me as the person who makes marketing simple. People know me as the person who tells you to share your story and show up and be authentic. I mean, these are the things that I tell people over and over and over again. Share your story, and have a process. And people stop me on the street and they're like, oh my God, I shared my story because you told me and I've been hearing it from you. And oh my God, that post like just was so powerful and people were responding to it. And it's true. So what I do with my coaching clients is especially if they're hiring me for social media, which not all of them do, there's other things I help them with too, is I sit down and I create not a social media strategy, a content strategy.
Mhm.
So we create those 6 themes. I call them content buckets, and then I work with them to fill them every single week. How are we going to fill them? And then I work with them on the process. When are you going to do this? What's the time that you're going to allot? We build templates out so that they can really copy and paste, and we get that process nailed down. I will tell you, I just had a client last week who I worked with her for 3 months. We started probably in like May or June, and then she she moved to Costa Rica actually. And so for the last month, she's been kind of doing things on her own. She came back to the States for a couple of weeks and she went into her place of business, which was a yoga studio. And she's been using my process and she's been using our strategy for the last couple of months. And we had a wrap up call last week and she said, "Oh my God, I had my best month ever in September." And she said, "And September's normally my slowest month of the year." And I
Mm.
said, "Well, why do you think that is?" And she said, "Well, I was sharing my offer like you told me." She said,
Mm.
"I didn't just share it on social media, but I shared it in the studio. I shared it in emails. I was, DMing people about it." And she said, and I created a sense of urgency. And she said, and everyone bought it.
Oh,
And
so good.
and it was because, to your point, all of the pieces fit together. It wasn't
Yeah.
just her talking about it on social. It was her using our strategy across all of her platforms.
100%. And I love, love, love that we talk about that so much. And one thing that I think I heard it on a podcast or I heard it in an audiobook, I don't know exactly who said it, but it stuck with me is that if you went into, because people feel like when they have those 6 things that they constantly talk about, things that we hear is, I've already said that. I said that. I say that every week. I say that every month. They feel like they're talking about it all the time. But something that I heard and stuck with me is if you went into the grocery store and on Monday they were selling apples and you went into the grocery store on Tuesday, they were selling apples on Monday, so Tuesday they're not going to sell apples anymore because they just talked about it or they were selling them on Monday. It's like that is people are coming to you for these 6 things and you have to remember to keep talking about that.
And it's not just talking about the things that you're talking about. I mean, it's so important to nurture your community and to educate them and to share those same themes over and over again. But what's most important is to share your offer. And I will
Mm.
tell you that in the beginning of this 2.0 of mine, I didn't really share my offer that much. I was busy. I had clients, but it wasn't until I like literally sat down and said, "Oh my God, I'm really not telling," like people were asking me like, "How exactly can I work with you?"
Yes. Yeah.
Once I started saying, "This is how you can work with me point blank,"
Hmm.
I started getting so many more client inquiries. And and now I very much work to share my offer, and I have multiple offers now. I have multiple ways you can work with me, but I do try to share at least one of them a week. And I tell my clients to do the same. Like, you have to be sharing your offer in addition to nurturing them. They have to know how
Yeah.
they can take it a step further, and you have to tell them. No one's going to guess.
100%. Yeah, being very direct. And we talk a lot about email marketing. I feel like it's a super undervalued business, strategy. And we talk about nurturing your clients through email marketing, but also giving them your offer too. Like you have to talk to them, but definitely presenting that offer. Otherwise, people don't know how to work with you if it's not direct. So
Totally.
yeah, I think that is really great. And I wanted to talk about you have some new offers that are coming out shortly.
Yeah. So, one of the things that comes up constantly, both with my coaching clients, and I've also taught a couple of classes that I am looking to see and working to see if I want to offer them in an evergreen way online. But in any event, one of the things that I'm constantly getting questions about is how to execute these partnerships. Like, a
Mhm.
lot of
Yeah.
my small business owner clients, and I understand this, are wearing
Mhm.
so many different hats. You don't know where to start, right? You're kind of like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God," like even something so simple, like something that you and I could do in our sleep, like execute an Instagram live. A lot of these business owners and small business owners just can't wrap their head around how to do it. So The first resource that I'm putting out is called the Small Business Partnership Blueprint, or no, sorry, it's called, we cut this because I just
Yeah,
titled it
I'll
wrong.
cut it.
It's called the Partnership Blueprint for Small Business, and it's a step-by-step guide on how to execute collaborations and put your brand in front of thousands of new customers through them. So it's 50 pages and it's a guide. It is literally, and it says, here's how you execute an email swap. Here's how you execute a giveaway. It's the step-by-step instructions, the templates for reaching out, and then it's the best practices and what you need to consider when you're doing these things. All of these strategies are strategies that I use on a regular basis, and I usually pick 2 or 3 to implement with my clients, and it really helps to amplify whatever it is that we're doing. So that is my first one. My second one is going to be called, I actually don't have a title for it. My second one is going to be how to basically set up your business for marketing made simple. It's for my sweep process. So it's like how to set up your email, how to set up your social media, how to set up any kind of press, how to really kind of get things started. So
Mhm.
that's going to be my second piece that's going to come out. And it's funny because I've had a couple of people reviewing this first blueprint, and they're like, oh my God, can you add this? Can you add this? So I am looking to add like supplemental pieces, like a blueprint for a gift guide for the holidays, a blueprint for guesting on podcasts, like all of these different things that I do with my clients. And I just really want people to be comfortable and to know that you don't need a huge budget and you don't need a gazillion followers to make your business viable. And these
Mhm.
processes are very simple. I think sometimes we just need that step-by-step handholding to make things
Yes.
successful. And it's not hard, but you need someone to tell you what to do. And that this is a way that I can bring my knowledge to more people at a very palatable price point, and they can take it and run with it.
Yeah, I think that's really great. And that's what, we see that a lot, that the steps and the process isn't game change. You're not reinventing the wheel, but in business, it can be so overwhelming. There's so many options. There's so many steps. There's so many things that can be done. People just need to be told this is what to do, and like those templates and things like that. And some people don't even think about, like, they just, those ideas don't come to them. So having that, I think, is going to be great, is going to be super useful for the business community, especially for those small businesses that are trying to do it themselves. I think that's going to be really great. So thank you again so much for being here with us. Where can people find all of these good things that you have coming up and all of your information?
Yes, of course. Everyone can find me at lindsaypinchuk.com. It's lindsaypinchuk.com, or on Instagram at Lindsay Pinchuk, lindsaypinchuk, and also at Dear Found Her, which has definitely evolved into more than a podcast. It is a community now more than anything. If you are a small business owner, you should go to dearfoundher.com and submit your story. We will get it up on our social media and on our website, and you can count that amongst your first piece of press or an initial piece of press if you don't have one. But I also share a lot. Once a week, I do a solo episode where I'm sharing a tip or a trick about
Mhm.
marketing or your business or being a business owner. And I share a lot of really personal stories. I mean, I went through a lot with the growth and the sale of my business, and my goal is to make it so that no one feels like they're alone in this. And it's funny, I didn't do very many solo episodes, and since I've started, they've become some of my most listened to episodes.
That is awesome. Yeah, I am super excited to check out all the episodes, listen to all the episodes of Dear Founder. So I started listening, so I'll definitely be finishing that. But I just want to thank you so much again for taking the time to be here with us today and giving us all of the good knowledge and tips and tricks. And I hope that everyone goes and checks out all of the things you have coming up.
Thank you so much, Hannah, for having me. You are a pleasure and you are a wonderful interviewer. I really appreciated being here.
Thank you.